What's up, control freaks? My name is Patrick Murray. Here's a quick one showing you how to use the GPIO pins on a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B for infrared control. Sound cool? Let's get to it. So I've got the ControlPi image. This is version 0.3.0, and that's the first version with IR support and the GPIO pins. And I've got that burned to an SD card, stuck it in a Raspberry Pi, and now I'm browsing to ControlPi 1880. And you'll see here new in 0.3.0 is we've got a palette here called Raspberry Pi and some GPIO pins. So let's pull one of these over. And the cool thing about these nodes is that you get a nice picture of the GPIO layout. Now, this layout could be pretty confusing. It's not numbered 1 through 40 or whatever it is. The GPIO pins are pretty confusingly numbered. So this is a really helpful picture to see what pins we could be using. So this top here is kind of the corner of the Raspberry Pi. And on the bottom here is where your USB ports and network are. The network port is, just to give you a little orientation. And for IR output, we are using GPIO 6. So yes, it is only one IR output at the moment. And if you hook up the hot lead to an IR emitter to this GPIO 6, and then the grounds to any of these grounds here, ground is always the same, then you're ready to go with the physical setup. So any old IR emitter, hook it up to GPIO 6 and grounds, and you're ready to go. Great. So we've got these input and output pins. Oh, and one more thing about that. So IO6 is set up for infrared output, and IO5 is set up for infrared input. And all of these other GPIOs can be used as digital ins or digital outs with these two nodes here from in node red. Okay, but today we're going to be doing the infrared. Before we could do infrared control, we need to include an IR driver. And at the moment, we still have to edit some files with the terminal window to get that IR driver into the Raspberry Pi. So I've got my terminal window connected with SSH, and I put this in read-write mode. If you're on a Windows, use PuTTY. On a Mac, just use terminal. And what we're going to do here is edit a file. And I've got that file name right over here. I'm going to copy and paste it. I'll put these links below the video. So to view a file, you would just type in cat and then the file path to that file. And here's the file we're looking at now. Now I've already got the file in here. So this is my IR driver. And I'll press Control K so that you could see if I say sudo, I need to be super user to change it, and then nano. Then I could edit that file. So cat is to view a file, and nano is to actually edit the file. So we'll open that up, and now I'm editing the file, and I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff here, and we'll pretend that that is empty. So now this file is empty, and to get the driver, we'll have to browse to a website. So the Lurk Linux infrared remote control, we'll go to their website. They have a database, and we could search for the file we need. So let's just say we're looking for an Apple driver for Apple TV. So we'll search for Apple in the web browser. We'll find this guy here, and that'll bring us to the driver that we need. And basically, we just copy this entire thing. We just copy that entire file and paste it into our editor here. And there we go. And then we say Control O to save it, Enter to actually save it, and then Control X to exit. And if you had multiple files that you wanted to use, multiple IR drivers, you would just paste them all right in here. And what you need to know is the name of the remote and the codes that you'll be using. But I'll show you how to get to those in a second. So you need to note the name and the codes. So we'll say Control X to get out of there. So now that driver is in there. So we'll go back to Node Red, and we'll find the IR node. And there it is, Lurk. So it's an IR output. And for this demo, we'll just use an inject button there, and we'll wire those guys up. And let's take a look at this Lurk node. So we'll give it a name. We'll just call it Apple TV because that's what we'll be controlling with it. And we'll add a new Lurk controller, and we'll just say I don't know, IR GPIO 6, just to avoid any confusion. And that's the controller that we're using. And here we add in the device name. So maybe you've forgotten what the device name is called. And if you did, you could go back to the terminal window and use IR send list and then quotation marks twice. And you'll see a list of all of the IR drivers that are included on your device. And that's the name of the device we'll be using. So we'll put that right in here, device name, and we'll be using output 1. And that's all we need to do to set up that node. And now we need to actually send it the commands we want. And to find out the commands available, it's the same thing. It's IR send list, and then the name of the driver, the name of the device, and then quotes again. And then we'll get a list of all the commands that are available to us. And that's the command that we want to send into that node. And once we do that, we'll be firing off that command. So we'll change the payload to a string, and then we'll just paste that right in there, say done, and deploy. And then this will say not ready. And as soon as we send the first command, it'll say active. And we'll get a nice little feedback in the debug that the command was sent. And if our IR emitter is the blinky type, then that will blink. So this is the beginnings of doing IR control with the GPIO pins on a Raspberry Pi 3. This is only a pulse at the moment, but this node here is a project on GitHub that you could, or somebody could, fork and add more functionality so that we could start the IR and when a button is pressed and then stop it when it's released. So we could do things like volume control. But for now, it just pulses, and I think that's a great start to doing low-cost control. And of course, when you're done editing your project, don't forget to go back to your terminal window and put it back into read-only mode, so that in case your device loses power, the SD card won't be corrupted. And that's how you do infrared control with a Raspberry Pi using the onboard GPIO. Now, the goal of ControlPi is someday to have all of this terminal stuff happen in a web browser with a nice and easy GUI for you AV programmers, so we don't have to touch the terminal window. But for now, I don't think this is too bad, and I'm pretty sure you could handle it. So get to it, give it a try, and let me know how you make out, what you think, and I look forward to seeing you more in the comments.